larger so as to accommodate more people who would like to attend the hearing, so we have to do the best we can. This is probably the last series of hearings outside of Washington, which the Senate Committee investigating crime and interstate commerce will have an opportunity before our authority expires on March 31st. Final closing hearings will be held in Washington during the closing weeks of this month. We plan to take additional testimony and some suggestions from, or recommendations from a number of government witnesses and heads of the executive departments after this hearing in Washington. Senate and members of this committee, Senator Herbert O'Connor, sitting on my left, of the great state of Maryland, Senator Charles W. Kilby of New Hampshire. Both are distinguished members of the United States Senate who
You don't believe that your private police force could be in cahoots with the gamblers?
Well, I wouldn't say more, Mr. Halley. I'm not going to say that. I don't believe Dean Martini, the head, was in any conceivable way.
You wouldn't believe that it could possibly be their policy to be in cahoots with the gamblers?
It wasn't what I thought. I didn't think they were there to begin with. It's what the commissioner thought.
You thought so to the extent of $60,000 of your own money.
Well, I'd like to know what you think it was done for then, and I'd like to have the opportunity.
I don't know what it was done for, but
I'd love to have the
I'm a cynic about the whole thing. I think any fair-minded person is too.
Costello to keep the bookies out, and you sort of purposely didn't ask him how he was doing it.
You see, unfortunately, we adopt the conclusion that they were there. I can't subscribe to that conclusion conscientiously. I have complete faith in the head of that department. I don't mean to say it was entirely clear. Don't misunderstand me. But I think the bookies were there were substantially very minor in number. And I think the inspectors tremendously exaggerated the condition, and that Commissioner Downing believed the inspectors very thoroughly, and that was the controversy.
After you got Mr. Costello, the complaints fell off.
That's definitely so.
How much was your handle at Roosevelt?
Our handle at Roosevelt, our average was lower than that. I think our average, Senator, was approximately $650 for the 78 nights that we operated.
And Yonkers has in the neighborhood of $50 million a year.
Well, Yonkers handle, you mean Yonkers, the present Yonkers?
Yes.
Present Yonkers has a higher handle than we do.
And how about...
I would assume they would have averaged around $750 a day, somewhere in that vicinity.
How about Old Country?
Well, that's the one I told you. Old Country averaged $650,000 for roughly 70, call it 70 nights. So our handle was roughly, I'd say 45 million or thereabouts, and Nassau's handle was roughly about 25 million, or approximately $70 million.
Will you describe the Nassau Charting Association and its activity?
I don't know, Mr. Halley, what do you mean? First, let me make this observation for the record. I'm here as a voluntary witness and came on from Florida. I received a telegram, and I read in the paper this morning I've been subpoenaed. That is not so. So I just want the record to be clear on that. I played golf with him many times.
2 and 3 times a week?
I wouldn't say that. But I probably played golf with him 100 times.
Over a period of years, you played golf with him 2 and 3 times a week, did you not?
Oh, it might have been for a short period.
Now, Frank Costello has maintained, and vigorously maintained, that whatever reputation he has is not deserved. Isn't that a fact?
So I know that he's maintained it to me. I don't know whether it's deserved or it isn't deserved. As far as that's concerned, I'll say this. He got a 9 on a golf hole. He said he had a 9.
Did you not believe him when he told you that he personally had no influence?
Many times I believed him, and many times I doubted it.
Well, what was your opinion when he told you that he had no influence with bookmaking?
Frankly, I didn't know whether he had or he didn't have.
Your close friend, is that not right?
Not a close friend, no.
Or your golfing companion?
Yes, on many occasions.
The man you spoke to very often?
Well, on the golf courses and a few other times in between, yes.
The man with whom you had any business?
The only business I ever had was Costco. I think about 15 or 18 years ago, we had an income tax matter in Washington.
Well, do you remember a man named Schoenbaum?
Oh, yes, he was there many times.
Joseph Schoenbaum?
That's right.
Who was an employee of the Bureau of Internal Revenue?
That's right.
Erickson, first witness at the Senate Crime Committee hearing in New York. Senator Kefauver's group listens as its chief counsel, Rudolph Halley, asks,
What's your business? We can't hear you, Mr. Erickson.
My business? I have no business. I'm in jail.
Mr. Erickson, will you state any legitimate occupation in which you ever participated?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of my intent to incriminate me.
What was your business prior to being convicted?
I object on the grounds of my incriminate me.
Were you a bookmaker?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of my intent to incriminate me.
Counsel is instructed not to, and we will not ask Mr. Erickson any questions if he's under income tax investigation, and that might incriminate him of a federal offense in our judgment.
How far did your education progress?
Of the 4th grade.
About the 4th grade?
Costello speak to you about keeping the bookies away from Roosevelt Raceway?
I don't recall.
Did they ever talk with you about the bookie problem out there?
I don't recall him ever talking.
Well, would you remember if he had?
I wouldn't remember.
Have you ever had a connection with the Colonial Inn located in the state of Florida?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of my intent to incriminate me.
Either the questions have nothing to do with crime, in which case you shouldn't answer them, but if they have anything whatsoever to do with crime, then they certainly would incriminate them. Will the chairman direct the witness to answer the last 2 questions?
Yes, you'll be directed to answer those questions.
I refuse to answer on the grounds of my intent to incriminate.
Are you referring to incrimination under any federal law?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of my intent to incriminate.
Engaged in prior to being convicted in 1950 in the state of New York of conspiracy.
I refuse to answer on the grounds of my intent to incriminate.
Mr. Erickson, I know of no federal law which that would incriminate you, and you'll be directed to answer that question.
I refuse to answer on the grounds of my intent to incriminate.
Where were you born, Mr. Erickson?
New York City.
And when? As a matter of fact, Mr. Erickson, that on May 16, 1939, you were arrested on a charge of perjury.
I refuse to answer on the grounds of my intent to
Do
incriminate.
you recall having been acquitted of that charge on June 7, 1939?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of my intent to incriminate.
Well, Mr. Erickson, being acquitted of the charge certainly isn't incriminating you. Well, you don't want to change your mind and really tell us some information which would be very useful to you, Mr. Erickson.
I have no information.
There are a lot of things you could tell us about which would be of great interest to
I'm
you.
sure I have nothing.
I looked out on the Hudson River and the beauty of this side and part of America and New York. And all the liberties under the Constitution. I just thought how Frank Erickson, when he walks out of this courtroom today and goes to his home, or goes back to his temporary abiding place, ought to sing it to deep in his heart and say, thank God, this hearing isn't being held in Soviet Russia.